is Keisha Robinson. I am the program director with BLOC, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. And yeah, so we're an organization that started work out in 53206. And so if you're not familiar with 53206, it's the zip code known for the most highest incarcerated zip code, I should say, in the states. So yeah, it's huge. It's a lot of disparities. It's a lot of poverty. It's a lot of mass incarceration. And so our organization, we know that those needs need to be tackled. I won't say there's no organizations doing the work, because there are, in fact, a number of organizations in Milwaukee doing the work, but we noticed that it was a need, like politically. A lot of people don't tend to vote because the process is like not familiar to them. They don't tend to know who's on the ballot sometimes. They don't know who should they vote for. And even stepping back from politics, our first question that we asked the people in the neighborhoods was, what does it look like for your community to thrive? And so they kind of like looked at us when we showed up at their doors, like, really, like, what's the ask? And we were really like, that's it. Like, we're an organization that's coming around and finding out the answers. We know that we need the answers in order to bring the solution. And so a lot of times that's what a lot of our elected officials and city leaders get it wrong at, because they, institute policies or legislatures based on what they think the people need.
Yeah.
You have to do it based on what you know they need. And so that's our organization. That's what we did. We showed up like asking, what does it look like for your community to thrive? And then it was a gateway for a lot of different conversations. Like, we heard things from like safer neighborhoods. We heard things from like illegal dumping, drug dealers, just a lot of the violence. And then we hear things like, too many police. I'm afraid of the police. So it's like you just heard a whole realm of things. And so that led us to they gave us direction to know where we needed to start.
Yeah. So when you say that you went and asked the community, what does the community look like to strive? Was that the intention of knocking at the doors of every single person? What happened before those steps where the BLOC was created in order to get to that step?
Yeah, so Angela Lang, which is the executive director, that's what she had in mind. She said that she knows that a lot of the issues, the Black issues and the people of color issues are not being addressed. And so she had this idea, like, maybe we could be that organization that goes in from ABC, 1, 2, 3. And so that's what we did. So we first, I knocked the first door. I was one of the original organizers, and I knocked my first door in November of 2017. And that was the question: what does it look like for your neighborhood to thrive? And so that was our very first question that we interacted in the communities with. And from then on, it led to a whole list of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I saw the agenda that was on your website, and there was highlighting like 10 basic needs, such as like safety and education and stuff. And I know you informed me that there has been so many different avenues of how communities thrive. What was the thought process of highlighting those 10 basic needs?
So the thought process behind that, which was the BLOC agenda, which is exactly how it was created from the community. It was created from us knocking that first door and seeing how we could be of service, how we can help, what were some of the needs. And so those 10 issues are the most things that came out from the community and knocking over, I want to say in that time span, it was about a year and a half. And those were like all the common issues that kept, being thrown at us. And so that's how we created the BLOC agenda, with those main issues from these communities.
Yeah. And it just remind me if I'm correct, you started at 2017?
Yes.
Yeah.
November.
Have you seen any differences from then to now about those basic needs or beyond of what the community, is it changing? I know you've mentioned a little bit of voting as well and the upcoming elections coming up.
So it has changed for a couple of things. Election wise, we informed quite a few people that were felons that they could still vote. Some people, a lot of people in these communities don't know that because if you all remember way back then, that's exactly how it was. Once you became a felon, you couldn't vote. So in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, those laws have been changed a while ago. I forget which year, but we were able to notify a lot of people. You know, we'll pass people on the street, or if we go to their door, we'll tell them like, hey, the elections are coming up, and their first thing, oh, I'm a felon, I can't vote. And we'll tell them like, okay, are you on probation? And they're like, no, I've been done with probation. Well, guess what? Then when you were done was when you could vote. And so they were like surprised by that. And so we flipped a lot of people, a lot of non-voters, and as well as people that didn't have backgrounds. We'll go to the door of the regular residents and things like that. And some of them were not involved in elections because they simply just didn't know. Some didn't know the dates were coming up. Like half of our folks in our community didn't even know about spring elections. They don't know who to hold accountable. So it was things like that. It was just like, yeah, it was amazingly, it's bittersweet because it was like, it's glad, we're here and we're finally doing the work. But the information that has been held for so long from these communities, when in fact they needed to know, they needed to have a seat at the table. That was, depressing, but yeah.
Yeah, you brought up like seat at table. Being a Middle Eastern woman and being Muslim as well here in this community, I identify a little bit with that of how not having my community step up and be at maybe like town halls and stuff and have conversations. So it's definitely needed to hear all the voices, and voting is such a essential part of our culture and our unity and our democracy here in America, and all of us need to be a part of it. And there is a lot of misinformation, especially when you brought up, being a felon or not having an ID and such, and the process of that. So I'm really happy that this organization is, tapping into that, but after COVID-19 and being more virtual, has anything changed with how you, as an organization, function? Is it virtual things? Is there anything that we can get involved with?
I'm quite sure there are things you can get involved with. I probably can't think of them right off, but yeah, it's definitely things that you can. But as far as with the COVID-19, what I did see as far as changes around that, more people are becoming aware. I kind of thought that the COVID-19 would be so much of a distraction that, it will be lessening the people showing up at the polls and things like that. But it actually is the opposite. I guess the stay-at-home order kind of like lifted people's senses, and they were more aware of the things that were going on, so they were able to chime in more. So now, we have the coronavirus, the COVID-19, and we're at home. And now, what's the big thing that's going on? And now it was the April 7th about should we go, should we not, and that became a big thing. And I think it actually awoken a lot of spirits in people, and people that probably had no intention, even participating in the elections, it kind of like, woke them up a little bit. So I kind of saw that we are seeing a lot of, it's a lot of depression, from the COVID-19. It's definitely that in the beginning, end of March, beginning of April, you probably heard about a lot of the domestic violence incidents. But we were hearing a lot of that, just from the people we were talking to. People stressed out about the changes. Some people were just left without employment, told to go home, not knowing how they were going to pay bills, not knowing what they were going to do next. So we were dealing with a lot of people like that, and it was kind of like, it was sad. It was frustrating to hear a lot of the problems. So it was, yeah.
And when I spoke to another organization about that, about how, domestic violence has risen because there is that frustration. You could be out of job. So you might be in a home that isn't safe, but you're at stay-at-home safety orders. So it's an unfortunate situation. Is there anything that you guys are doing to help? What's the action plans at the moment with all of that?
So what we did was, I have a low battery sign flashing. Will I be able to grab my charger? Okay. 1 second.
Coming at you live. Live things happen.
Well, I'm trying to see, like, I wonder if I have Premiere, so I wonder if I can edit this out. Like, I don't know if we want to put it like all. Yeah, well, we're good. It's fine. This is real life.
Real life.
Right. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, and you can keep it or leave it, however. I'm whatever.
My whole thing through this whole thing is like meeting people where they're at. So like I have my kids behind me and they're on their tablets, so they won't come screaming and running over. But it's like this is just where we are in this moment.
One thing I really also loved about Zoom is I like seeing everyone's like at home life.
I do too. Right?
It's a little,
I like that. I guess it just brings more of the feeling to the conversation. I don't know, but I guess so. I thought I was just weird because I like that. Like, I like seeing the background. So, yeah.
It brings like an element to the person's personality. You're like, oh, okay, so this is your living.
Okay. Wait. So can you ask me the question again so I can make sure I forget?
Just about if there's any action plans with issues that have happened with COVID-19 and like domestic violence. Is there anything that your organization is doing?
So I know that what we did, and we have like about 50 ambassadors, so we have to be careful about how we're reaching out to a fragile community and whatnot. And so about a week or two when we started our text messaging program after the stay-at-home order, what we did was we put we compiled a list of resources. And so while we were texting folks, we actually were texting them these resources, depending upon their needs. And we also have these on our website listed. So it was resources about housing, shelter, food pantries, things like that. And so we realized ASAP that was a need. And we know that, you don't really want to contact the community and ask about voting and things like that, knowing that we're facing a pandemic and a crisis. So the first thing you should do is reach out and make sure they're okay. And so that's why we made sure we compiled the list of resources and, where there's to offer them to them or to guide them or to lead them, based upon the issues we heard. So,
yeah. Do you mind going a little bit in depth of the text messaging program that you mentioned a little bit? What is that?
So we use the text messaging program called Hustle. And what it is, we create preset text messaging. And specifically for that time when we were pushing out the resources, the text messaging would say something like, "Hi, we hope that you all are doing well. And do you have," we actually had our ambassadors text press 1 if you have this housing issue, or press 2 if you have this food issue, or, and so we were able to link them with the specific needs they had. And again, it was where to send them for housing, food, school, education, information, and things like that. So that was pretty much the depth of it. And then we also included all this information on our website. So we just wanted to be able to make sure that we can answer each question and give out each resource.
I love that. And I also think because that's such a amazing way to do it, because sometimes people have a difficulty talking about these issues face to face.
Definitely.
So having it in a virtual way in a text message where you don't have to, reveal that publicly, that's things like that. And before you mentioned uplifting Black communities, do you mind going in depth about how that looks like? And also how can we help as a public in solidarity and as an ally as well?
So when I say uplifting Black communities, just having a chance at basic things like affordable housing, better jobs, sustainable wage, paying jobs, things like that. So just meaning uplifting the Black community and that sort. We inform people who their alderperson are, who their senator is, what they supposed to do, your county executive. So just like uplifting them in that moment, making sure that you have all the resources and information that all of the residents have, that all the community should have. And so, just by doing that, and then just like providing, shooting employment information, training, resources, things that can help, get them better employment. And so that's kind of where our stance is right now. That's kind of where our passion is right now, and just really uplifting the Black communities in every which way that look like that we can.
Yeah, and then just to get this straight, so primarily your organization is providing resources for the individuals, and not, is it like, is there anything else as well with that? Maybe like perhaps workshops and things, or is that the primarily focus at the moment because of COVID?
So the resources, what we did was we actually kind of like were the gateway and kind of like connected them to the resources that were already out there. As far as for us, we have like training programs, like we have a fellowship program and an ambassador program. So we employ from those programs from the community, and we take the people that a lot of people won't take, people that have struggling employment history and things like that. We bring them to our organization and we give them a chance. And so we start with basic skills, like with our fellowship program. We do general email. We show you how to CC and BCC. We do etiquette skills and things like that. We do a lot of things that a lot of people, weren't taught or they should know. And there's some things that people are embarrassed about not knowing. Like a lot of people won't tell you that they don't know what BCC and CC means in email. But what we found out was that a lot of them didn't. Yeah. And so we realized that need, and now we just, we apply it to our programs. Even if they do or don't, we just assume going out, we're starting from scratch. And so we want to get everybody on the same page. And it was beneficial. It helps. And so that's kind of where our work begins at, as far as with training and things in our ambassador and our fellowship program.
And if our listeners or anyone that is watching this or hearing this would like to get involved in helping this organization or the Black community, what are some maybe recommendations of easy steps that they can do that?
Well, that's a good question. So I know right now that we can benefit from trainings, like a lot of Zoom trainings with our ambassadors, like any trainings that you feel like in the work that it'll be beneficial for our ambassadors to know, because they are the, kind of like the ridgeway between the people. They are the ones going out there on the doors and having conversations. So we can always benefit from any trainings that you feel that would help, just help towards the community. Voter education trainings, those help. And just things like that. And it's definitely more, and I'll definitely, put together some things. But yeah, we welcome that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, me and my coworker, Lucas, I'm a Middle Eastern woman. He's a white man. And we had this conversation one-on-one about what is our stance in this and helping other communities. Is it showing up to events? Is it donating? Is it like, what are the limits of when you're overstepping or where you're just being in solidarity? So it's important for everyone to know their place, because it's all of us coming together to help, and rather than community work.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel you on that, and that's very true. My granddaughter is at the door. Sorry about that, but yeah, there definitely, we can use a lot of things. We have a lot of allies that help us. Right now we have one she works in redistricting and gerrymandering, and we actually covered that last week with our ambassadors. We kind of like informing them on things and talks that they will probably have with people out there. So we want to get them ready. And so what she does is she's going to provide us like a Zoom training to our ambassadors for that. So just like we, encourage and appreciate allies from whatever field that they're experienced in or whatever their work is. How can they mesh it with ours and, bring it to us, things that we don't know.
Yeah, and just go back a little bit with the agenda. Is there anything that, I know you have the agenda, those 10 basic needs, which are definitely needed. Is there ways that you're holding the community accountable? Not the community, I mean the government or anyone that is in position?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. I was like, what's your relationship like with elected officials, and like, how does that kind of work?
So here's where our relationship is with elected officials. We stand behind and support those that has the community's best interest, whether they are Black or white, regardless of color. We go for the ones that align with our issues. Today, actually at 3:30, we had a call with the governor's office but that was rescheduled to Monday. And on that call, we're going to ask them, hey, what's your plans for the communities of color? What are y'all thinking of? How are we going to, change some of the systems? So our relationships with them are good. We hold true to holding them accountable. Our endorsement process, and Rick, our political director, probably can talk more to you about this, but we have our own in-house endorsement process. We have 7 of our experienced ambassadors as part of an endorsement committee, along with our board, our political director, and I think Angela, our executive director. So when we invite those who's running for whatever spot they're running for, we have them come and be a part of a whole endorsement process that we ask them a range of questions. I mean, it's about like a 4-hour process. And we intentionally grill them on when they are in office. We do hold them accountable. We make meetings and we ask them, okay, well, when we met with you way back when, you said you were going to do this. What's your stance on it now? How far? What's the progress? So we have really good relationships with elected officials, but they do know that when we reach out to them, that we're reaching out, and so they got to come with the business. So, and we are known for being that organization to holding them accountable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's needed sometimes to know that we mean business. Things need to change. What has been the response typically from elected officials with the goals or demands?
They'll want to know what are we hearing at the doors and how can they best support. And then they'll give us free range to contact us, use us. When you need us to fill in here, we're there. Or if you think it's some things that we need to fix. They're open for the most part to, working with us and doing that. So we get generally good feedback. It's kind of like some of the relationships are kind of tainted if we don't endorse them.
Do you feel like sometimes that your organization has to make that first step before the conversation happens? Yeah,
and we discuss that a lot. We pre-discuss a lot of things, and we do. We can kind of foresee how it'll play out in the community. So yeah, we try to get on top of it at the beginning, definitely.
I did want to end a little bit on a more positive note. I know Juneteenth is coming up, and it's a day of celebration and a day of history. Is there anything that your organization is doing for that, or?
This year we still, and I'm glad you brought it up because we only talked about it briefly earlier today on the call. But by it being next week Friday, so last year we kind of marched through the parade, and we had a table, and we were educating folks about the city officials and things like that and community happenings. This year we haven't decided how we're going to do it because I'm not even aware if they're going to have the actual parade yet. So, they're not.
I believe they're not. I believe it's going to be postponed.
Yeah, and I figured it would, which is understandable. So we haven't quite figured out what we are as an organization going to promote that day or things like that. But it may just be something simple as a message, a community message or something like that. But we'll definitely do something.
Please let us know if there's anything that we can do as Radio Milwaukee.
And I will make sure I reach out to you prior to that because maybe it's just some sort of messaging or anything, but we definitely will reach out to you before next week Friday.
Maddy, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I really love.
I'm sorry, guys.
I love that your organization is focused on listening to what the community needs and really rallying around that listening and providing resources based on what people need. And I love that. So I really thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Anytime. And I thank y'all for the work. It's just, so many people have negative, experiences, I guess, in their head about these communities until they actually, come to the community and see more people. They want to live and they want to be sustained. And that's all it is. And far too many people look at it differently and they don't think, that's the case when that's only the case. So yeah, I just thank y'all too as well for doing y'all work and, you know, shining a light on that.
Yeah, of course. It should have been earlier. It should have been sooner. Is there anything
starting now? So
yeah. Is there anything, Keisha, that you would like to add or say?
No, that was all. Just thank y'all, and I hope to work with y'all soon. Like, you know, we do a lot of different things, so we'll be glad to have y'all on board. You know,
yeah. Hopefully, one day we'll be in person.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we will let you know as soon as this is out into the public.
Okay, it kind of froze you out a little bit, Maddy, but we kind of got it.
This is why I'm on mute and I don't talk. All right. Same. Have a great day.
All right, y'all too. Thanks.